Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Christina Nelson Show, where we motivate, inspire, and heal. And tonight is no different. We have a very special guest with us tonight. As always, all my guests are special, but this is a very special time in here. And I hate saying this, but I've known her since she was like 16, so I'm feeling really old because the girl is doing her thing right now. So it's like, wow, okay, you were 16 and now you're this grown woman who's blossoming. Her name is Ciara Shanae, and she is absolutely doing everything that even people my age haven't started to be doing yet. So, have you ever wanted to speak and use your voice to influence people? Have you ever watched your favorite podcaster and said, I can do that, but just don't know how or where to start, or even think that you can do something like that, right? Then this show is for you. Ciara teaches women speakers to brand their voices so they can enroll more qualified clients into their group coaching program. And so that is what this show is about. She has her message, don't muzzle your message. And we're going to get all into that, why she believes it's strong to help women, other women, because I am all about helping other women, right? I believe there's no competition, none of that good stuff, right? We're going to help each other. I'm going to bring you along with me. You're going to bring me along with you. We're going to promote one another. We're going to big up one another. We're going to help one another. And that's what this is all about tonight. Don't muzzle your message, and why she wants to feels that it's important for women to learn how to speak out and use their voices tonight. Thank you for watching. If you are on Facebook, if you are on YouTube, don't forget to like and share. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Christina Nelson Show. And hey, without further ado, everybody, I want to bring up my guest, Ciara today.
Hey,
Hi.
hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you are very welcome. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure. So I love the way that you so eloquently put it. But in short, hey everyone. I'm Ciara Shanae, and I love to help women speakers turn their voice into a client magnet. So if you have been wanting to not just speak but learn how to have a strategy behind you amplifying your voice, then I'm your girl that you want to connect with for sure.
That is good. I like that. I perused through your website and everything, and I was like, wow, like what made you want to go this route? This whole don't muzzle your message, because that's a book, right? If I'm not
It is.
mistaken. Okay, so let's start there with this book that you had out, or you wrote. Why did you write that book? What was that whole don't muzzle your message? I like that, but what was that about for you?
Right. So first, I started out before I had the programs that I have now. I still have the course, but it's now housed in a bigger program called Voice to Clients Collective. But when I had this course, it's called Dominate Your Speech. I wanted to create a book that would make that experience for my clients even better, because that's I'm like, I don't even know if you want to know how we started, but it started as a Google Doc with a couple of questions so that they can think and have some breakthrough. And then we would discuss it together as a community and as a group. But I was like, nah, like that was cool for the first round, but how can I elevate that experience? And so I was like, I need to write a book. I need to take these questions and make it something bigger and grander and give them a better experience. And so I remembered like literally going to a conference, a business conference for speakers. And I went with my, business conference where there was Cheryl Wood, who was a speaker who I actually was just with in DC. It's so funny. Yesterday. But I went to the conference and I was like, I need to figure out what this book is going to be about. I just have questions. And literally, while we were driving there and back, God dropped the title only in my mind, and it was
Okay.
Don't Muzzle Your Message. So some people write a book and they get chapters first, or they get concepts, or no, I just got the title only. And that
Oh
was
my
what
gosh.
started everything. I just knew I had an idea to make the experience better. And that's when everything began to unfold for me.
So what does that title mean for you? When he did drop it in your spirit, were you like, "Don't muzzle your message, God"? What are you talking? Like, what are you saying? I mean, I know what it means. Like, don't stifle what God has given you. But what did it mean to you? So when you began to actually write the book, how did you take that title, and how did the words, the actual book, come about? with that title.
Right. So at first I was confused. Like a lot of times when God says stuff, it seems so profound. It's like, okay, unpack that. Like what exactly does that mean? But I began to really look at my life and think of like where did I ever find myself muzzled? Because a lot of people they see me now and they're like, when were you shy to speak, Ciara? And I've always been an extrovert in personality. So people are like really
Okay.
confused, like, what? You always were very talkative. And I'm like, yeah, but when it came to like public speaking, or what I define really being unmuzzled, is really being transparent about all stories. Like no story is off limits. Like even the shameful stories are not off limits. So like, and I've grown to that part. But at that point, I just thought when I wrote the book initially, because it's being relaunched, I thought that it was like, oh, you should be speaking and you're not speaking. But then as the years have evolved and gone on, it's been like, no, you may be speaking, but you're leaving things on the surface and you're not going as deep as you can because of shame, because of what you think people might think. And people need to find themselves in your story, but if you don't tell the story, then they can't even come forth with the things that they're hiding and secretly suffering and going through and enduring. So
Right.
it's really about really removing the muzzle and knowing that you have the power. It's been may have been other external influences that have caused for the muzzle to be put on, but you still have the power to take it off.
I like that because when I hear muzzle, I'm always thinking of like an animal, right, who has a muzzle
Hmm.
on him, and it's put there by someone. It has to be put there because they don't want the animal to hurt anyone, or they don't want it to do anything, or anything like that. So when I think of that out in a natural term, I'm thinking, yeah, somebody can muzzle you and say, I don't want you to tell that part of the story, because if you tell that story, then somebody won't get free. Somebody won't be delivered from their circumstances, or somebody won't know, like, oh, Ciara, you went through that? I had no idea. Well, you didn't know because I was muzzled, because maybe I felt shame. Maybe I felt like if I told this story, then, people are going to look at me differently. And so the enemy has a way of muzzling us to not tell what we need to tell to have people, free and delivered, and all of that good stuff, right? I love that muzzle. Don't
Absolutely. And
don't
like
muzzle.
even to your point about the muzzle, like it also it's so that the dog typically doesn't bite,
Yes.
and or to reduce the sound of the bark.
Okay.
So
Yes.
so sometimes when we are
Good.
muzzled, it doesn't mean that you're not making any sound, right? It doesn't
Hmm.
mean that you're not speaking at all, but people aren't hearing you to the extent where they should, right?
Right.
And so that's what it really begins to talk with. So yeah, we're on the same page.
Absolutely, I get it, and I didn't even look at that part right there, like to reduce the sound of the bark, right? Because you don't want to hear that loud dog barking and everything. Yeah, right. And then you think about it: if the dog doesn't bark, then also the danger in being muzzled is if you can't hear that bark, then you can't hear the danger that's ahead. You can't hear what's going on outside, because that the dog is actually sometimes protective too. So if you muzzle the dog, then it's like, well, now you can't hear what's going on, and then maybe he's alerting you to the dangers. And so maybe our unmuzzled voice, it can alert you to the dangers that are lurking out there, or just anything that's out there that we need for you to hear and to see.
Yes, I would definitely agree. Because sometimes the danger is that we have been bottling up the different things that we have experienced, and it could even be the traumas that we allow to just be suppressed within us. And we don't often really exercise the healing power that literally transparency possesses. Like when
Right.
you open up your mouth, it can set you free and also
Hmm.
allow other people to start their healing process. Something that I always say is that it's when you say I, you give others the opportunity to say me too. Because the
Yeah.
initiator, right? The I part, like I experience blank, is the hardest part. It's so easy to say me too. And so when you decide to be unmuzzled as a speaker and you begin to share your story, people are going to naturally begin to come up to you, connect, resonate, and say, oh my gosh, I thought it was just me. Most of us think it's just us
Oh yeah.
because a lot of people are hiding and they're muzzled about what they've experienced.
What was it that you were muzzled about, or one of the things that had you muzzled that you were free to speak about in your book, or when you speak, period?
Right. So a lot of it is self consciousness. It's always thinking in our minds. It's the mental chatter. Like, what is it that people are thinking if I share this? You know,
Mhm.
and some people, they go even as far as, will this be used against me later? You know, sometimes we think the words that come out of our mouths, because people have done it, will end up being swords and weapons against us
Absolutely.
later. And so that's why you just really have to stand flat footed, and not even like, usually it can like bite you if you still are dealing with some type of shame. So
Okay.
I would say, like, deal with whatever it is, the shame of it, so that it doesn't bite you. Like, you can say that, you can talk about it, that's fine. I know that I went through it for a reason. I know that it was bigger than me. Whatever purifying of the perspective that you need to do, you have to do the work, or you will be emotionally uh attacked. You'll be emotionally attacked because you didn't do the emotional work that's required to stand alongside your story, regardless of what it was.
Right. What kind of work did you have to do in order to get to that point? Prayer, was it something that you just all of a sudden were suppressed and then the Holy Spirit said, remember that happened to you? Like, what was it? What was that point?
Right. So the biggest thing for me that caused for me to open up my mouth was changing my focus. So I talk about this in shaking your, how do you shake your fear to speak? It's literally changing what you concentrate on. And one of the things that I focus on all the time is that there was a tribe waiting for me to show up. And that's what we
Mm,
talk about in the very first chapter of Don't Muzzle Your Message. When you realize that it's not about you, it's about you being able to be that vehicle to take others where they need to go. And they're literally waiting on you, and all of
wow.
the excuses and everything that you're telling in your head, like, oh, I'll get there when I'll get there, they can wait on me, or oh, they should be, honored, or or thankful that I'm coming to get them. Like, they could get an Uber if they want to get there faster. Like, all the stuff that we do to avoid it being us. Like, when you really begin to take on the duty and the responsibility, like, no, there's a tribe waiting for me to show up with the stories that I have to tell. It changes the game. So it's a selflessness. Like, you have to realize that, yes, it happened to you, but it's bigger than you. It's bigger than you. And so that's when I began to speak at places, and I began to test the water. I guess because I studied psychology, I kind of do
Okay.
experiments. And so a
Okay.
lot of what
Hmm.
I do is very infused with psychology. So I began to go to speaking engagements, and little by little I would share a transparent story, like
Okay.
a really real, uncut, like people would never know looking at me type of story. And when I
Okay.
saw the impact, when I saw the results, when I saw the women saying me too afterwards, coming up to me and crying and like, oh my gosh, I needed that, or it really made it easier. Like, okay, my tribe needs me. Like, they're waiting for me to show up. Like, if that's what's gonna happen, for me, if I share and that's what's gonna happen, I'll do
Hmm.
that. I'll do that all day long. And it just gave me a sense of fulfillment and purpose that I had never experienced before.
I like that. The tribe is waiting for you to show up. That is a great way to look at it because sometimes you're just thinking, like, nobody wants to hear this. Like, who wants to hear my story? Who wants to hear what I have to say? And like you said, you begin to share it, just like one transparent thing. And when you do, people are like, oh my gosh, me too. And then you're like, wow, okay, I had no idea that, somebody could be impacted about what I went through and how I got out of it, most importantly, or how I dealt with it, and how did I, weave my way through this. And I think that that's excellent. And the most important thing that I like about it is that it's God infused. It is not just a Ciara mindset. Spoke about this in my last guest, Rachel Lewison. We are both mutual friends with her, and she was
Yes.
saying that she was almost saying it was almost like the same thing. It was like, people need to hear what you have to say. If it's not you, then who? And of course, God can find anybody else to reach that person. But wow, what great impact it would have been if it was you who did it first.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you could have just reached that person. And Rachel was saying how she was talking about her book was not a
Mm-hmm.
empowering book, but it's a God empowering book. And that line I never forgot. I was like, I probably always have that embedded, that it's not self empowered, it's God empowered. And so that's the important thing to know, is that it's always going to be God. It's never going to be a Ciara, a Christina, a whoever else type of thing. It's always going to be a God thing. And so I appreciate that. And even at being a younger woman that you are, and older, and I'm a little older than you, a little bit. But you know what I mean? It's like I can even look at you and even say, wow, okay. Like it doesn't matter the age group that you're speaking to, because I see that even looking at your recent flyer, that you have all different age groups. Like it's not just young people who come to you because you're young. It's everyone.
Right. It's those who know that they have been muzzled, or like to some extent they haven't spoken out
Hmm.
to the extent that they
Yeah.
could. Like they like I've been doing some speaking. Like when I first wrote Don't Muzzle Your Message, it was written for aspiring speakers. But
Okay.
we're relaunching it because we're repositioning it for those who have been speaking, because like I mentioned, it's not that you haven't been speaking at all. It's just that
Okay.
maybe you haven't been connecting with your audience on the level that you would like to, because transparency allows you to have that relatability and
Yes.
connectivity on a whole nother level, and it causes for you to show up more authentic. Like we think we're authentic, but when you're muzzled, there's still pieces of you that people haven't even gotten to know.
Wow.
And so it really it really changes the game so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. So, what is it about just like the female genre that you want to get to? Is it, I mean, I know we're women. Okay, so yeah, obviously you want to reach women, but what specifically about encouraging or empowering women is it that you wanted to do?
I love this question because I actually was just like I said, I was just in DC yesterday with one of my male friends who is a speaker, and he was like, why do you only work with women?" And I'm like, that wasn't always the case. But one thing is, I understand the emotional things that we go through as women, and it varies between gender. Like
Right.
the what we need to break through in order to really show up as our full selves as speakers, men don't necessarily deal with the same emotional battles or internal obstacles, as I like to call them.
Mhm.
And so I understand womanhood, I understand
Yeah.
gender, and how our brain works and how our minds work and how our hearts work.
Yes.
Sometimes we are also muzzled because we don't want to hurt people's feelings. When
Mhm.
you have your side of the story, but you don't want to tell a story at all because so and so, the character in the book, doesn't want
Yeah.
their story to be told,
Yeah.
but it's your half of the story. And
Yes.
so men tend to have a boldness to them and a natural audacity that we have to kind of develop and cultivate.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. And I can see that. Yeah, no, I could totally see that because I've seen men speakers, men kind of just go out there and they just speak and they just go ahead. And like you said, they have a natural audacity. And I like how you put that, the natural audacity, where we have to kind of get pulled on, and we don't just kind of just go out there and just kind of just unveil ourselves quickly as men do. And that's a great thing. I mean, it's a good thing in some ways because I think it's a perspective. I'm not a perspective, I'm sorry, it's a defensive mechanism,
Mm,
I guess. We
yep.
don't want to, you don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings, but you also don't want to get hurt yourself. We don't want to be rejected. We don't want people to look at us any kind of way. And so we're like in essence protecting ourselves.
Right.
And that's a great, and it's good to protect, but also God wants us to, at some point in our lives, to be able to be vulnerable for that one particular. Like I was saying this, if it's, even if it's just one person in that whole crowd of people, you can have 100 people there, and if only one person felt like you were talking to them, then
Mission accomplished.
that's it. Mission was accomplished. If you wrote 100 books and one person and 100 people read it, but only 3 people said that was for me, then mission accomplished. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. Now we want other people to, because I don't think God will have us writing all this for 3 people to say it, but it's just the concept of do it anyway, no matter who reads it, no matter who picks up your book, no matter who is sitting in the crowd, to just do
Right.
it and be faithful to that, to what you're doing.
Right. And that's why like I really grown to love the word audacity versus confidence or
Mhm.
boldness, because those are great too.
Mhm.
However, audacity, it makes me think of like when people are like, well, like, how dare she? Like, who does she think she is? The
Yeah.
audacity of her,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, who do you think you are, right? And
Mhm.
so that really means that you have to develop your self-worth. And again, it's really all about standing flat-footed in who you are and knowing why you're sharing this. Like, regardless of what people try to do with the information, like, you know why you're sending the information out.
Yeah.
So we have to become more audacious, and audacity really allows for us to open up so many more opportunities too. So it's not just like, because a lot of us as women try to become more assertive because men
Mhm.
tend to be very assertive.
Yeah.
But what about if you're just audacious?
Mhm.
Like, you don't necessarily always have to be assertive, just be audacious
Okay.
and care less about what people think. And it's a working process. It's daily. Like, I do practice. Some more of what I do is, I call it speaker self worth. I mean, speaker self talk. I call
Okay.
it speaker self talk. And so it's affirmations that because you have to talk to yourself to counteract what's going on in the mind. And again, it's
Yeah.
psychology based. But literally, if you talk to yourself, the thoughts you're saying out loud can literally replace the negative thoughts that are speaking against you.
Okay. I get that. So, how did you become that? Like you said, I know you said you went to speak places and you tested the waters and you spoke and everything. So, when did you actually realize that you were a speaker? And like, when did you realize, like, hey, I'm a speaker. Like in the beginning, I mentioned, like, I look at a lot of podcasts, of course, because and podcasts are geared towards women. So that is
Mm-hmm.
what I look to because that's what I do. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to do what I'm going to look at and watch what I like to do. And so since I like to do the podcast and I like to do, the interviews, I watched a lot of that. And so I realized that I can do it one day when I was actually it was accidental and it was on a blog talk radio. It wasn't live yet, and someone asked me, they said, I want to start this blog talk radio and I want you to do the interviewing, I want you to be the moderator. I said, I can't do that. No way. And so when I did it, everyone was like, you did so good. And I was like, did I? Really? So for me, it was an accidental thing. But for you,
It was accidental.
okay.
It was very similar. And so, what I call that, because I used to be a purpose coach, but what I used to call it was, I would call it like a purpose stamp. Like, sometimes other people will see what you're good at and they'll stamp it. They'll give their
Hmm.
stamp of approval, like, no, you're really good at this. And sometimes that's what allows us to really look at, like, oh, this might be something I need to do. So for me, a lot of people ask me, I expect this question now. How did you get into speaking and how did you realize you were a speaker? Like most people, I went through public speaking classes in high school
Okay.
and in college, but I was afraid. Like I was, because public speaking is like a number one fear, right along with the fear of spiders. Like it is a common fear, and most people, most humans are afraid to speak publicly. And so I was nervous. I was thinking about, man, my main thought was, is this like going to be as exciting to them as it is to me? Or is they going to think my content is boring? Because
Yeah.
I could be pretty geeky and nerdy. So I was like, everybody don't care about the things that I care about. And so when they stared at me and blinked at me, to me, I would misread it or interpret it as it's boring. And that's when I began to do the mindset work. Like, you can't assume what the audience is thinking because you could be so wrong. The person that's staring at you and blinking at you and look the most uninterested can be the one that has the most detailed notes and was the most excited about your content. And so in those classrooms, I would do assignments, and I would be terrified and my leg would be shaking. And well, at least I felt it shaking. Many people
Hmm.
didn't even see it shaking. And I'm like, it was going crazy. Like, are you kidding me? But I had professors really speak a lot of life into me. And one professor, I'll never forget it. He said, you should really consider when you go for your master's to really take a graduate assistantship and teach positive psychology. I said, what? I should teach a whole college course. Like, what you talk about now?
Hmm.
Like, I know I did all right, but what are you talking about? And he was like, no, you did a really good job. And I had a teacher, another professor, y'all see, you're really good at this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm so nervous. But they saw the potential. And
Yeah.
so just constantly hearing that made me look at myself. And
Okay.
then I had what I call selfie sparks, which is similar to what you just mentioned, where you're somewhere, and I was somewhere, and I would see speakers with the clicker and the presentations and rocking the stage, and I would feel something ignite on the inside of me, and I would be like, oh, I love how their logo is at the bottom of their presentation. I could do something like that. And the moment that crossed my head, I was like, what? You know, and so it all like aligned and came together. And so it was really again about me getting over myself and my fears and my insecurity and what I call, internal obstacles, because it was really only me in the way of me from being the
Yeah.
speaker that I was meant to be.
How about that? It's always us in the way of our own selves. And here we are thinking that, or we make a million excuses like, I don't have time right now, or maybe let me take a course first, or maybe first let me graduate college, let me first get over this hump, let me first do this, let me first, and before we even started, and God is like, just do it. Like, I didn't say you had to do all that. Like, he's the Holy Spirit really is a teacher. Like, he really does teach you, and sometimes teach you as you go along, or put people in your path, or put a situation before you, and all of a sudden before you know it, you're there, and you're like, hey, I'm doing it. He's like, yeah, you are. You're doing exactly what you said that you did not
You
think you would be
couldn't do.
able to do. You put yourself, your own self, in your own way.
Right.
But
And that's exactly how I fell into actually working with speakers and like helping coach and brand them.
okay.
Like when I mentioned the course in the very beginning, when I had people ask, I would coach them. I was a purpose coach.
Hmm.
So I was coaching these women on like figuring out what their life purpose is, and then if, of course, applying purpose to like their career so that they would be fulfilled on their jobs, and like just all around like feeling like life is worth living, right? And being excited about their existence and things of that nature. And so that's where I started. And then every time I would talk to them, every single last woman ended up having a message that they wanted to share. Hey, I have a
Okay.
message I want to share. Hey, I want to share my story. Hey, I want to speak. And I was just like, I don't do speaking. Like, what? Like, I was so confused. And then that's when I felt like God gave me a nudge to like get a bunch of speakers together and build the course as we went.
Wow.
So I didn't have a full out everything, nothing. I had just speakers who was willing to trust me to do something I had never done before. And again, I
Amazing.
was thinking the same thing. I'm a very studious person. I'm degreed. So I typically think I need these type of things too. I was a certified life purpose coach. So then I'm like, I'm not certified in speaking. At the time I wasn't certified. My studies was in psychology, not communications. So I was disqualifying myself so
Wow.
many times.
Hmm.
But after I just did it, I saw that they were getting massive results. And that's when I learned and realized, like, no, this is innate. Like, this is something that God gave me that other people, yeah, I sat in some classes, but I wasn't the best. I got B's in those classes. Like I wasn't an A+ student in those classes, but this is just something that was naturally inside of me. So it was the skill set plus the supernatural. And like
Hmm.
I've been loving it ever since. I haven't looked back since 2017 working with speakers. I was speaking since 2008. Like I started out like wanting to preach the word, and my mom could tell you all all about that. So I was doing Bible club and stuff like that. But that was just to really like, because I was zealous when I first came to know Jesus. I was super zealous, and I was just
Hmm.
like, everybody just needs to know. I didn't even think about being afraid of speaking, but later down the line, when you really have to structure the content, and it's you have to present it, I started to become more self-conscious. But again, I wasn't qualified, so to speak, either. But I believe I'm one of the best around that that do what I do.
You
I
got to.
really believe that. And a lot of people, they help you speak, but they don't help you to turn that voice into a client magnet. So that's a huge differentiator for me.
And that's what I want to get to next about this client magnet, because you mentioned that it is and of course I always have to go back. Oh, you teach women speakers how to brand their voices, because this came off your website. Brand their voices so that they can enroll more qualified clients into their group coaching programs. And so you are helping women use what their gift is, as a means of like their means, like they get money. They can, I hate to say it that way, but like that's how it is. It's lucrative. It helps you. And maybe some women were working a full-time job and now they can come off their job and just do this type of thing. And so, like, how does that takes a lot of trust too. And the Holy Spirit would like to say, I'm forget the 9 to 5, not forget the 9 to 5, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm not going to do the basic, get up, go to work, come home, blah 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 blah. But this is what I do. This is
Right.
this is it. This is what I do, and to trust God to keep bringing them, to keep bringing them, so that it can be what you do.
Right. It's a very unorthodox career path and profession to pursue. And so a lot of my like myself and my clients, we start out as parallelpreneurs, right? Where you're working a job and you're working your business on the side. But it's
Hmm.
very important when you turn your voice into a client magnet, it helps your client acquisition process to be easier, and it causes for you to reduce a lot of the hustle. So a lot of us, like, we are hopping on social media looking for clients. We're going to networking events. We're asking for referrals, right? But then we're also speaking on 1,000 stages, on podcasts, on live stream, and a lot of us often we're overlooking our voice to
Yeah.
be what can bring in the clients. So we're doing all of this extra work on the side that may not even really be fulfilling or even helping us get closer to our goal, right? Because it's not the best route, and we're relying on those things. But then there's our voice that we know we should be amplifying, and we are amplifying, but we're not setting up this what I call a speaker sales funnel to
Hmm.
even get the leads, which are potential clients. We're not even doing that. And so we're
Hmm.
doing double work. We're tiring ourselves out. We're exhausted. We're depleted. And then most of
Yeah.
the time we become discouraged and even want to give up because we feel like it's not working. Because again, we already have a lot on our plate. I only
Hmm.
mentioned that you have a job and you're working your business on the side. But then if you're a wife, that's a whole nother layer. If you're a mom, that's a whole nother layer, and then there's so many other roles that we carry as women. And so we end up just overdoing it and doing the most and not really being satisfied. And so I teach my clients that how can we streamline that? Use
Okay.
your voice. Take what you're already doing, speaking, and
Yeah.
use that as the primary way to get clients.
I love that. That makes sense. It makes perfect sense. And like mentioned, doing other things, like you have a life outside of this. Now I know you're a mommy,
Yes.
which still makes me like, what?
Right. Me too.
Yes, but so now that you have this little boy, and how does that play? Now, did it change a little bit, like, because you became a mom? Like, before this, you were able to just go boop boop boop, I can do whatever I want, and now you have this little one. How does that change?
It definitely
What you do?
changes because just time is of the essence. So the my one of my favorite words in this season is capacity. Okay. Before, when it was just me, you can deplete yourself, you can, run yourself thin if you so choose. It's not the best thing to do for
Yeah,
self-care purposes. But it's just you. If you want to speak every day, you can do that. If you want to speak
yeah,
multiple times a day, you can do that. But no, I don't have the energy, nor do I have the time, and nor do I have the freedom because most times I have Caden. So typically, there's 2 days out of the week that I typically don't have him regularly, because he's with his daddy. And so I'm grateful for that. I call that my week middle because most people have weekends. I have Caden on the weekend, unless there's a special situation set up. But yeah, so I have him. I'm not. I'm mommy. I'm childless. I'm sorry. I'm childless 2 days out of the week, and that I try to maximize. And I also began to maximize my lunch breaks. And I know if you've worked the job and you work the business on the side, you will understand how important using those lunch breaks
Yeah.
are. Because I'm not the type of mom where, because I've seen, well, maybe when he gets older, I've seen a lot of boss moms, like they're able to put their babies to bed and then go into another room and get work done for like a couple of hours. That doesn't work for me because my son just, he feels when I walk away. It feels like most of the time. So if I do walk away when he's asleep, I have like a 20-minute window, and that's
Yeah.
really getting something prepared. Like
Hmm.
it's not really enough time for work,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it
I
gets
get that.
interrupted. So time management is crucial, and then if you can give like at least a couple of free days, that's great. Even sometimes taking days off, like PTO on the
Yeah.
days where you're childless, until you can maximize your time.
Hey. Yeah. I
I'm
think that's a
currently
good
doing that
idea.
right now, like
Okay.
as we speak. I PTO, didn't have work today, and I don't have my baby, so I can get everything that I need to get done.
But that's smart. I think, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just like, okay, this is my day. I need to maximize this day. My husband always tells me, um, you need to have a day. You need to have one day where you're doing all your stuff, your ministry stuff, your Christina Nelson show, all that kind of stuff. Like, you need to have a day set aside for that. And I don't have all the other, like, I don't have any babies anymore, but so I
Right.
have no
Empty nester.
excuse, right? I don't have that excuse anymore to say, but I have the baby and who's gonna watch? I don't have that excuse anymore. But at the same time, it really is a time management thing. I think with me and with a lot of other women, just time management, because I do work and I've been working from home, and which is a blessing. But still, at the same time, even when I would go into the office, I would do that thing like lunchtime, or if calls were slow, because I work at a help desk, so I have to answer calls. And so calls were slow, then I would do that little thing, or I'll listen to something, or I'll write down stuff, and get into it. Because once I get into a flow, I get into a flow.
Right.
It's just starting that flow that gets that's
Hmm.
the problem. Because I could get
Right.
into the flow, girl. I could be boo 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 gun, but it's actually putting it into gear. That's like, I think that's the problem with me, with a lot of women who are people just in general who like, I just got to start. What do you suggest for someone who is in that situation? Like, to just get in it. How do you get into that mode where you're like, okay, I know I need to start, but how do I get started?
I would say first identify what's causing you to delay. That's
Hmm.
very, very important. I believe in things like that. I believe that there's some type of obstacle that we need to identify. That's
Hmm.
what I would say. Whether it's procrastination, that's something I've heard come up a lot. Whether it's lack of clarity, I've seen that a lot happen while you're dragging your feet, is because you're not clear, you don't know what to do. If
Hmm.
that's what it is, you have to figure out why you're not um, doing as much as you can. And like you said, if it's time management, so like, why are you not managing your time wisely? Where is your time going?
Hmm.
And that this is something that I wanted to say. I work very hard on delayed gratification. Like, I don't know about you, but I have to catch up on Sisters. It has a whole new season, and I haven't watched it. And Love Is Blind, it has a whole new season. I haven't watched it. Like,
Girl,
there's
watch it. You better watch that one. That one is a good one. Go
I
ahead.
know,
Anyway.
and I'm so late to it. But my thing is, I told myself delayed gratification. Once you have finished what you have on your plate to finish,
Uh-huh.
then you can enjoy the show. So the sooner you get it done, you can enjoy the show. And so some people, they may say, "Oh, don't do that." Like, I have fun. I'm not saying I like don't have any fun. I don't allow I have fun by talking to my friends, or like I have little different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that is a reward. Like, my mom can tell you, like, I was a teenager taking my TV out of the room. Like, I can go without TV, but those shows I really want to watch. I really do want to watch them. So you should get it done. And not only having like a reward system with yourself, but also keeping in mind, like, why am I working what am I doing this for? Like,
Okay.
what is motivating me to want to do the work that I'm doing versus just being busy in our businesses? Because being busy in our businesses really isn't motivating. Like, it's
Right.
really not.
Right.
But
Right.
if you're like, hey, I know that if my goal is to get 5 clients by the end of the quarter, and that's going to bring an additional stream of income that's going to allow me to walk away from my job, like that's going to allow me to take the trip that my husband and I have been talking about. I'm just hypothetically
Yeah.
speaking, that we've been wanting to take. Like, then that's motivating. Like, people
Mhm.
say, put your why on your
Okay.
mind, but they typically talk about your why and why you got started. No, always have a reason why you're a purpose behind why
Yeah.
you're doing anything. So it's not just why did you get started, go back to the beginning when you want to quit, but no, like, why did you set this goal? What is this goal going to unlock for you? And all of us really, that would get our feet moving if we really want what we say we want. And this is what we have to do to get us there. Why would you not be motivated to do it? Then you would have to question yourself, do you really want what you want? Or is there something, not trying to be funny, or is there something like clinically going on where maybe you just are losing interest in everything,
Oh wow. Mm.
Otherwise, why wouldn't you get started? So
Mhm.
that's what I would say. That is literally what I would say. But again, it varies, so that's why it's important to know,
Mhm.
what are you doing it for and why haven't you really done it? Like, what's been
That's
in
good.
your way?
That's very good because there are a lot of people who are just kind of like sitting around and you know your gift and you know what you have to do and you know what you can do and sometimes you're just like, all right. And sometimes you have to put it like, okay, maybe I should like not watch that episode of whatever, whatever for now. Put it all away until I finish everything and say, all right, I did all my work. Now I can sit
Now
and
I
watch
can.
all of
Mhm.
my stuff. That's a
You can
very good. I
binge
like
because
that.
now everything's done.
Yeah.
Like, it's about being responsible over our businesses, being a good steward,
Mm,
because then at the end of the day, we have goals, we have things we want to see, and then when it hasn't happened, it's like you didn't remain disciplined. I
yeah.
believe in discipline. Discipline isn't always fun, but it's rewarding.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely rewarding at the end, especially when, because I like to look back and say, oh, wow, I did that. Wow, cool, pat myself on the back there. You can. It's okay. It's okay, y'all. It's not prideful. It's just you did good. Thank you. That I was able to go ahead and do those things and accomplish those things. So, what would you say now to a young woman who is like really shy, but she knows that she has this something burning inside of her? Like, how do you pull that out of somebody who probably does have it in them, but they just never really got up in front of people, or they say they can't get in front of people, but you like, okay, so like you said in the beginning, people are like, Sierra, I find it hard to believe that you can't speak out loud. I find that really hard to believe. Like, somebody might say that. So what would you say to, how would you pull that out of someone?
Right. So it's typically just by action. Like, you have to just do it. The more
Mm,
you do it, the easier it becomes. So what my advice would be to them is, before they hop on anyone else's stage, unless someone is willing to give them an opportunity,
mhm,
they should build their own stage. And I literally wrote an ebook that's in my Voice to Clients Institute, and it's also on my Voice to Clients campus.
mhm,
Um, you build your own stage, which is ultimately not waiting for someone to give you the opportunity, but creating your own event, your own platform, inviting your own guests strategically in the room and speaking. And the
okay,
more you do it, because you want to keep message momentum, the more you do it, the easier it literally becomes. The more internal work in your mind that you do, the easier it becomes. So my leg does not shake when I get on stage anymore, because it was more mental than anything. It was
mhm,
really an anxiety that was beginning to outplay and like show up in my body, but it was in
wow,
my mind.
okay,
And so I was
wow,
freaking out in my mind. So my body began to respond to what was happening in my head.
yeah,
So it's really important. That's why I go back to our minds. And it makes sense now. When I studied psychology, I thought I wanted to be, the average therapist. But now when I am able to infuse it into speaking, it's a game changer, because it's still psychology that goes
yeah,
on with the fear or the shyness or the
mhm.
reserve as to why we don't really amplify our voice to the extent that we should.
Wow. Do you recommend them finding people that they can look to for some encouragement. Like I said myself, I watch a lot of podcasts. I don't watch a lot of podcasts, but there are certain people that I do watch because I really like the way they may interview or the way they flow on screen. Like for me personally, Tamron Hall is one of my favorite.
Oh,
I love Tamron
yes.
Hall. I, lo-
This show is
I just
awesome.
love her. I love the way she talks to her, engages her audience. I love the way she engages her people who she's talking to and having a conversation with. And so that might be somebody else's motivation to look at someone, or I don't know. Like, do you encourage people to say, watch other speakers, watch other podcasters, and all
I
that?
would say yes and no.
Okay.
The yes is yes if you can mentally handle it. I like to call those type of people your virtual mentors. They
Okay.
don't even know, they haven't met you probably a day
Right.
in your life.
Tamara don't know me at all.
Okay.
Okay.
But she's been mentoring you virtually, okay?
Right.
And she
Right.
has no idea unless she gets a hold of this, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
She has absolutely no idea. And then the no side is because some people deal with imposter syndrome and comparison,
Mm,
and then intimidation. And so
okay.
sometimes studying that can then cause for you to really go down a spiral and not
Hmm.
really do the building up work that we
Yeah.
want you to do. And so sometimes that's not helpful. So
Hmm.
it really depends on where the person is. I had a client who struggled with imposter syndrome, and when you see her, you would never think so because she's well
Hmm.
accomplished. She does things in excellence. She really is a perfectionist. She doesn't really settle for anything above superb, you know.
Yeah.
And then when she came out and said she was struggling with imposter syndrome, I'm like, but you look like you believe that you belong in every space. You look
Yeah.
like you believe, you know. But so that's why it's really important because we can be accomplished women and still feel like, we can still battle with these insecurities and still feel like we're not good enough or like
Wow.
they're better than us. Versus, hey, that's where I want to be. That's really inspiring me. I'm gonna get there one day, little by
Okay.
little, brick by
Yeah.
brick.
Yeah.
Sometimes we try to get there tomorrow, or we're like, man, I don't have it, and that could be why people don't start. I don't
Yeah.
have the lights. I don't have the couch. I don't have the plant that Tim, that she has.
Yeah.
I don't have, the stage crew. I don't have the production team. I don't have so sometimes that can be a really harmful thing, depending on where we are mentally.
That was actually really good because I can see myself in all of that. And like in the virtual mentoring, yeah, like Tamara don't know me, but I still watched her, and she mentally, like, mentally, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I like what she does. But also, it can be harmful in the sense that I may look at a podcast and say, wow, her background looks really good, or I want to do things just like this, or I want to do things like there is a woman. Oh gosh, she and I think you were actually friends with her too, Joy uh Morgan. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. I
Okay.
know Pastor Joy Morgan.
Yes, Dr. Joy Morgan.
Dr.
Now,
Pastor Joy
yes,
Morgan. Yes.
Dr. Yes.
Okay, absolutely.
Today, she actually put up um, a video today, and I resonated so much with it. She was like, I know I'm not here all the time. I'm not online. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not online all the time because, my hair might not be done. I might not have
Mhm.
any makeup on, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, and I don't look like this person. I don't look like that person. And she said exactly what I was thinking. And I wrote that to her, and I was like, wow, like you just articulated what I was feeling. She was, no, we got this. And I was like, wow. She was like, just show up, just show up. Like, I don't have to be like Tamron Hall. I don't have to be like this particular person who does their podcast and they get on the screen 6 times a day. And that's great for them. I can't do that. I don't, I don't have the time to be doing it. I don't have the time to create the content like this person does. I
Right.
admire what they do. Trust me, when I see it, I'm like, wow, that's really good stuff. And I admire how they do all the stuff and they edit it and they have the music in the background and it's all this good stuff, right? And so it looks so good. And I'm like, dang, man, I wish I could do that. And then through her little 2 minute, maybe 2 minute speech that she just gave, I was like, wow, yeah, stop it. You don't have to do that, like that imposter syndrome. You don't have to be like that person, like that influencer. Maybe God just called you maybe to get up once a week. Maybe, whenever the wind blows, or that way. And I feel like having an inspiration to message to say maybe I can then do it right that time. But I don't have to pressure myself
Right.
into
Right.
being just like that person. They say things like, "Oh, I got a check in the mail from Facebook or a check in the mail from YouTube because I
Yeah.
do this." And then I look at that thing and I'm like, "But you on there like 2011 times." Like, I'm like, I can't. Good for you. No shade against that person. Trust
Right.
me. No shade. I'm just saying, like, you can't be like everyone.
Absolutely. And it goes back to what I talked about earlier when we talk about capacity.
Mhm.
Like, and so when I work with my speaker clients, when it comes to their visibility activities, which is what you like touched on a little bit,
Mhm.
it's really important for us to know what is authentic for us. And so
Yeah.
before we could create your cadence and how
Mhm.
frequent you're going to show up, it's important for you to know your capacity. It's important for you to know how much time you actually have, or it goes back
Mhm.
to time management, and then knowing what is best for you too. Because
Mhm.
live stream is powerful, like video content is very powerful, but everyone is not good at live stream. Like, let's just be honest, it's not authentic for everyone. So
Mm-mm.
maybe pre-recorded video may be the type of video content. It all depends.
Right. Right.
Pre-recorded video, there's
Mhm.
live stream video, but you should do video, but find which is most authentic to you. You know, and
Exactly.
again, it goes back to personality. Like, I'm an extreme extrovert, and then there's those who are introverted, and sometimes introverts work well with pre-recorded and or um, one-on-one capacities, right,
Mhm.
where there's not a lot going on. And so it's again important for us to know ourselves, our capacity, and then create a visibility activity plan that is something we can actually sustain. Like,
Very
because
good.
they and then comparing ourselves to them, one, they be full-time and we're parallelpreneurs.
Yeah.
Two,
Yeah.
they don't be
Yeah.
having kids.
Mhm.
And we have kids. Three,
Mhm.
they know something, a lot of them be single. Like,
Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
you
Exactly.
know, it's different. We have so
Yeah.
many other things we're juggling. And so, but it is important to show up frequently, maybe not daily, um, but yeah, having a steady flow.
Gotcha. The consistency, maybe. Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
I
Very
like
good.
the word consistency, but it's used so much that people use consistent as every day. Like,
Yeah.
they think it's interchangeable as daily.
Right.
Daily
Right.
is every day.
Right. Mhm.
Consistent is whatever your cadence is. Like, if that's
Mhm.
once a week, you could still be consistent and only showed up once a week.
Yeah. I got it. I like that. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, my husband always tells like, just stay consistent, like
Mhm.
in meaning if I'm gonna have a show every Tuesday, have a show every Tuesday.
Yep.
Like
That's it.
yeah,
So yeah,
right,
because
right.
people are gonna look out for the show and they're
Right,
gonna be
right.
expecting it.
I've had people like inbox me if I didn't have a show and I didn't mention it and say, "Oh, I forgot to say there's no show tonight." Inbox me and say, "There's no show tonight," and I'm like, "Oh, I forgot to say it." Yeah,
Yes.
there's no show
That's
tonight.
because you branded it in the minds of people, and that's good.
Yeah, and they're like, "It's Tuesday. Where's the show?"
Hmm.
Hey, what's
Where is
going
it?
on? Yeah. Yep. Oh, wonderful. So I usually give my guests a moment on their by themselves to kind of just encourage someone and to say whatever you're going to say. And I know you have something that you wanted to tell the people at um, giveaway or something like that. And so
Yes.
this will be your moment. And so I'm going to go away for like a few minutes and seconds, and then you're going to say, do what you do, encourage somebody, 30 seconds or whatever, and then we'll talk about what you want to do, and then we'll talk about how to get in touch with you and all that good stuff. Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Hey, it's your girl Ciara Shanae again, and I was super excited to have had this time with you all. We talked about so many awesome things, but I want to talk to you a little bit more about my speaker brand bundle, and I want to give it to you for absolutely free. Inside, you're gonna find, 8 essentials that every speaker should have when you are first getting started, so you can get booked on more stages that will value the message and the content that you provide and add to their event. And so I really want you to dive into that. You'll also get my Booked and Ready Masterclass, which is inside of there, because a lot of speakers, when we decide that we want to actually hop on stages, we want to be booked and busy because that's what everybody else is being. But you want to be booked and ready to actually attract the clients by way of amplifying your voice. And so I want to give that to you for absolutely free because your voice is a whole experience. And when you show up, people are going, your tribe is going to show up. When you show up, your tribe is going to show up. People have been waiting for you to show up and didn't even know that they were waiting for you. And so it's time for you to definitely take off that muzzle, begin to share transparent stories so that you can absolutely attract the tribe that you deserve to serve. Okay, and so I want to give the the link, the way that you can actually get this speaker brand bundle, and it's bit.ly bit.ly backslash speaker brand bundle, and it's all lowercase because it's pretty case sensitive. But I want you to dive on in there so that you can have everything that you need, so that you can have these conversations with the event organizers where they can actually set you up to be able to generate leads, because every speaking opportunity does not permit that. But you want to be able to generate leads so that you can nurture the relationships into clients and enroll them into your group coaching program without hustle. You don't have to tire yourself out. You just have to unlock your voice, unmuzzle your message, and amplify your voices in the spaces where your audience and your clients are waiting for you to show up.
All righty, now one more time if you can give me that, because I wanted to kind of put it across the website, the site to go to.
Thank you. I thought about it when we were live. I was like, man, I should have given it
So
to
did
her
I. Yeah, I was like, dang, I should have
before.
got it before that.
So
But bit.
sorry. So
Mhm.
it's bit.ly,
Ly.
bit.ly
Mhm.
slash speaker brand bundle. Speaker
Speaker
brand
brand
bundle.
bundle.
Mm-hmm.
All righty there. So hopefully there we go. Right, bit.ly. Is that the
Oh,
right
just the
slash?
slash is the other way.
Is the
Yep.
other way?
Yep.
That
That's
always
correct.
happens to me.
It's all good.
It happens, and you know what? It depends on what everybody calls like the forward slash, the backslash, and all that stuff. So,
And I might even say the wrong slash. That's why the second time
yeah.
around, just like slash.
Yep. So
But
there
yeah,
you go,
that's
everyone.
exactly right. Yes,
Mhm.
speaker brand bundle.
Wonderful. Wow. Ciara, thank you so much for being my guest. I appreciated everything that you said. You gave such good advice, such good points, and anyone who is out there. Now, we cater to a lot of people who are, of course, diagnosed with illnesses and sicknesses, but you can become an influence in a lot of people in that way. So you can take everything that she's saying and for yourself and encourage and speak to someone that is dealing with something in their lives, and as mostly of what myself and my husband do. And so we are just going to say thank you one more time, appreciate you. Go to her website and get that free gift, and yeah, have a great evening, everyone. God bless you, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye now.